It's Monday, we're live. I'm Sandy,
I'm Sophie.
and here's the introduction. And thank you for joining us this morning. It's great to have you with us. It's Monday, it's still early, but still we are here, we're live, and this is Monday Morning Live. Sophie, tell us what we're going to be talking about today.
So this week we've got a few different things to be talking about, but our main theme this week is going to be what's on our bucket list. So what are some of the things that we want to do before we die, really, which seems a bit morbid, but what adventures do we want to have? What are our things that we want to do?
So the bucket list is a big thing for everybody. I think we've all got things that we want to do, but I think particularly we're going to be talking about the Catholic bucket list. Is that right?
Yeah, so it was sparked by a random conversation that we had last week as a team, a joke where we said, oh, that must be on our Catholic bucket list, which got me thinking, what would actually be on my Catholic bucket list? So we're going to talk a bit about the church news and what's coming up, and we've got an interview with a friend of SYMT, a bit of prayer, and then also lots of other discussions today.
So really an action-packed morning then. It's good to start with a Monday morning like this. So go on, take it away. There's some important feast days this week, isn't there?
Yeah, so it's been a very Mary-based week. So yesterday we had the Feast of the Assumption, and this coming Saturday is the Feast of the Queenship of Mary. Now, all of those have got some quite big words in it, so we did have to do a bit of research to make sure that we're telling you the right thing about these feast days, because they're easy to get confused with other ones. Some of those things about the church where there's lots of different words that you have to get your head around. So, Sandy, can you tell us a bit about the Assumption of Mary that we celebrated yesterday?
Well, I'll be honest. I've left my printout on the printer, but I've just managed to pop it up. So see if you've just seen that little bit thing that came up there. That was me trying to find my notes for this bit. I've left it over there on the printer. But anyway, this is seamless. So the Assumption of Mary. I'm going to read it word for word because I think this one is it's a bit of a challenge sometimes to get your head around. So we believe as Catholics that the Assumption teaches us about Mary, that she was assumed into heaven. Okay, so a bit like welcomed into heaven. I've been handing my notes now too, so I can now read it. It makes life a bit easier. So I think this is the bit we as Catholics struggle with. And I'll be honest with you, it's a concept we do maybe. It's hard to get your head around. At the end of time, we will be raised into heaven, body and soul. But as Catholics, we believe that Mary has already done that, and that she's now sat in heaven with God. We celebrate the Assumption normally on the 15th, but I think it was shifted this year, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. We went to Sunday.
The Catholic Church have started moving feast days now. If it's close to a Sunday, if it's either on the Saturday or the Monday, it gets shifted into the Sunday, which makes it more of a special day for us. So we can actually, when we're going back to church, we can actually get into church as well and separate and celebrate it. So yeah, so that's the Assumption.
I found a nice quote. If you follow us on social media, there was a nice quote that I found, so I put it out yesterday, about saying that because Mary was assumed into heaven, it's kind of like showing us the way into heaven too, like the way that we should follow and how to live our lives. Mary is a great example of how we can live our lives. And then on this coming Saturday, there's another Mary feast day, so double celebration within 7 days of the Queenship of Mary, which again, I did a bit of research, but mine wasn't online. Mine was from the UCAT book that I have. It's a bit dog-eared, this one. I've had it for a few years. And it's where we celebrate Mary as being the Queen of heaven and earth, because Mary is the mother of Jesus, and we can say that she's in heaven and she's crowned Queen of heaven and earth. And if you don't have a UCAT, it's a really great little book to get your hands on, especially for looking up stuff like this. It's organized by question. So if you have a question about Mary, you can literally look it up and it tells you lots of things about Mary. So this says, can Mary really help us? And the answer is yes. Mary is the help of Christians, and millions of Christians testify, and it tells you all different things. So yeah, on Saturday, eat some cake to celebrate Mary being the Queen of Heaven and Earth. So we actually have a little bit of a video that we found that we liked that helps explain a bit of the teachings about Mary, debunk some of the myths, and hopefully put us on the right track about what we really do believe about Mary.
Debunk's a good word. So, there we have it.
So these it's really funny. So when Sandy plays the videos, I have no idea what's on the screen. So I just have to wait until it's my time to talk. So these little videos, I really like them because it's just a few minutes of just really easy facts, what we do and what we don't believe. And watching that when I watched it for the first time, helped me think about who Mary is to me, really. And we've talked quite a lot about Lourdes in the last few weeks because we would have been in Lourdes this summer, and it's really sad that we weren't able to go, but we completely understand that it wasn't the right time for us to be there. And I think going to Lourdes for me helped me to understand a bit more about who Mary is as our mother. She's the mother of Jesus and she's our mother too, because so many people go to Lourdes with such confidence that Mary will listen to their prayers, and she is the mediator, so she's she helps us talk to Jesus and grow close to him. And in Lourdes, you see lots of people sat at the grotto just looking at the statue of Our Lady and talking to her, and in their hearts in prayer, just like you would talk to your own mother. If I'm quite close to my mum and I talk to her about lots of things, and it's just like that with Our Lady. She's our mother. She's there to help us and to lead us closer to Jesus.
I think it's really important as well that, like, when you think about the life of Jesus, Mary was always there. She was with him step by step. And I think the key that you always see it is like that journey to Calvary. That Mary was there every step of the way. And I think that's so important for us to remember that she is there with us every step of the way all the time now.
Absolutely. And things like praying the rosary, learning about Our Lady. A priest once told us that when we hold rosary beads, I wish I had mine here, but they're next to my bed. It's like holding Our Lady's hand because we're learning about her life, how she walked next to Jesus. You know, when Jesus learned to walk, Mary would have held his hand and helped him to walk. And it's the same way with us. Like, you know, she helps us learn the way and how to imitate Jesus's life, like we're asked to. So a couple of really great Mary feast days just happened and just coming up. But we're going to move on a little bit now and talk about our bucket list. So I think a lot of people have a bucket list. For Christmas, I actually got a notebook that was all full of like lists. So it's like films I want to watch, places I want to visit, adventures I want to go on, local places. So things on my generic bucket list. Maybe I would really like to go to China one day.
Ooh, I've never
I'd
been.
really like to go deep sea diving one day. I don't know how I'd actually cope because I'm a bit of a wimp in real life, but I like to think that I would do all these things like skydiving. So there's what's on your generic bucket list, Sandy?
Do you know, I've really struggled with this. I've never been the type of person that sat there and said, "This is on my bucket list. These are the things I've got to do." I mean, there's places I'd love to visit, and I think that's more what's on my bucket list. I'd love to go to Canada. Never been to Canada, and I just think there's so many amazing stories of people there. I mean, I've been very privileged that there's things on my bucket list that are on my Catholic bucket list and on my what you would call generic bucket list that I've been able to do as well. I mean, 5 years ago I did the Camino, and I know a lot of people have heard of it, but I was very privileged to be able to spend the best part of 5 weeks walking from the south of France right across the north of Spain to Santiago de Compostela. That was an incredible experience for me, and it had been always on my bucket list. I've seen the film. I think everybody's possibly heard of the film, if not seen the film. And I remember telling mum and dad that I was going to do this. And she was, how have you heard of this? Oh, I seen it in a film. And the first thing my mum said was, let's watch the film. And of course, the story, I don't want to give too much away, but the lad dies at the start, and the dad then goes and walks the Camino for him. My mother wasn't too keen at all, but that was a big thing for me on my bucket list. I wanted to do it. And I was very lucky to do it. I suppose in many ways I've also been lucky to travel throughout life as well, and so places like Australia, I've seen them, but I'm sure there'll be things that come up as time comes on. What about
Yeah,
you?
so if people aren't sure what we mean by bucket list, do we have the little bucket list video of
We do,
just like
yes.
places to visit? So if you're not sure what we mean by bucket list, this is the sort of thing we're talking about. This is just world travels, not just Catholic one. So if you're not sure what we mean, this is what we're talking about.
So I suppose, Sophie, that is the question. What's on your bucket list?
On my bucket list. So on my bedroom wall, I have a big corkboard map that you can put pins in of where you've been. And so my husband is American, so it's quite funny. On the map, we have kind of like two sides covered. So I have a lot of like Europe covered, and he has a lot of America covered here. But my bucket list, I would like to just travel to some of those amazing places like you've seen on the video. But what I think is really cool about being Catholic is I've been able to do a lot of that through the church and going to different places. So, you know, we've been to events like World Youth Day in Poland and Madrid, been to France. I got to be at a Catholic summer camp in the States, and all those things, all those travels were already on my bucket list. And I got to tick them off. But one in particular is I would really like to meet a pope. I've been very close to the Pope, and there'll be a little photo in a second. And if you zoom in, there is a child wearing a paper mitre that I'm holding on the railing. So if you can't spot me, I'm at the front. I was a bit excitable and I wasn't quite sure what you do when the Pope's in front of you. But that was really cool. But I'd actually really love to sit down and chat to a Pope, particularly Pope Benedict. I think now that he is, I don't know the correct term, but now that he's like retired, he writes a lot. You see pictures of him hanging out with the cats in his garden, and I just think it'd be really fun to spend an afternoon with Pope Benedict in the garden with the cats, having a walk and a chat. He's a very clever, holy man, and I'd really like to meet him.
I mean, I was very lucky that when the Pope visited the UK, I was like within a stone's throw at Westminster Cathedral. But for me, I would love to meet Francis. I mean, like, I'm jealous of how close you were to Francis there. I mean, that's pretty cool. And I think definitely on my bucket list would to be close enough to Francis that you could sort of just touch him just a little bit. I think that would be incredible.
We wanted to this year, so I don't know if you've seen it, but there's like a newlywed blessing that the Pope does, where you like go in your wedding dress and tuxedo and things, and you stand in the Vatican Square. But obviously, our plan was foiled, and by the time we can travel again, we probably won't be newlyweds anymore. So maybe that can go onto somebody else's bucket list. But I was able to put a little message on Facebook to a few of my friends who are in the States and in Ireland and things, at different things that I've been part of. And some of their ideas were also to walk the Camino, like you did, Sandy, and a lot of other pilgrimage sites like visiting the Holy Land, go to Lourdes, visit Fatima and Guadalupe. I thought a really cool one that somebody said was to do missionary work in Calcutta, where Mother Teresa was with her sisters. And that's a really cool one. And to be able to read the Bible in the original languages, that's pretty, that's quite a clever one. I don't think I'd be able to do that, but good for whoever put that one. And the one that I thought was really cool was to meet the relative of a saint.
Ooh.
Obviously, like, the saints are real people who lived, so they have families. So, for example, there's a saint called Saint Gianna Mola, who was a mother, and a few of my friends have met her daughter, and her daughter goes and gives talks and says things like, oh, my mother, who is a recognised saint by the church, and that'd be really cool. I'd never thought of that one. That's maybe been added to my bucket list now.
But again, that's really important to remember. The saints were real people, and there is still generations of those saints. It really is quite incredible. I think
my uncle, the saint.
I just think that's incredible. I mean, the Holy Land comes to mind, I think, for most of us when we think of what we would like to do. But I think there's more to it, because it's everywhere. It's not just where Jesus was born, where he walked on the sea. I just think that would be an absolutely incredible experience. And I know as a diocese we've done the pilgrimage before, and it will be coming back again eventually. But I definitely would love to walk the footsteps of Jesus. And I suppose, going back to the start, the footsteps of Mary as well, that she walked with Jesus.
Yeah, there's a quote that I used to have on my wall at university when I had more time for adventures and things, that was, life with Christ is a wonderful adventure. And that was Pope John Paul II that said that. And I think it's just really true that a lot of the opportunities that I've had to travel, do different experiences, tick things off my bucket list, have been because of the church and because of my faith. Just different opportunities that come up and I've said yes to, and then found myself in like Spain, or said yes to go and live in an island for a year and things. Like, you just keep on saying yes to opportunities, and
Yep.
who knows what happens.
And I mean, for me, one of the things that was on my bucket list a long time ago now was to go to a World Youth Day. I wasn't really fussy where it was going to be, but to go to World Youth Day. And I got the privilege of going to Madrid. And it was a fabulous experience. It was a horrific experience at the same time, but it was a fabulous experience to be there with all those other Catholics as well. And I suppose for anybody that's watching this, I think we need to add to the bucket list World Youth Day, regardless of wherever it is. However, I would recommend Portugal next year or year after next.
It's a bit strange talking about bucket lists at the moment, isn't it? When like the most exciting thing I've done recently is watch a new show on Netflix.
Add to my bucket list going to the shops.
I did my bucket list, leaving the house again. We were so excited when we left the house the other week. So I think we're actually going to show a little interview now that we did with a friend of SYNT, Chris. We chatted to him just this morning, but then he had to go to work. He's a vet, so he had to go and look after the animals. So we're just going to show you this now, and Chris can give his answers to some of the questions that we've been talking about this morning as well.
And I must put it out there that there's a few whoopsies in the recording. I was recording at the time. There was a pop-up comes right across Chris's face. I tried to fix it, and then you seen other things come up on the screen, so I do apologise.
It was early.
But you still get the idea. So here's Chris's interview now.
Hi, Chris. It's great to have you with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks. I am 27 years old. I still have to think about that. And I live in Stafford. So I work in a veterinary clinic. It's long hours, but I studied in Liverpool on the Wirral. So I lived there for a few years. And that's what I get up to day to day. That's my work. That's my job. I live at home with my mum and dad, back to the family unit. I moved out of uni and I thought, you know what, I'll find a job close to home to start there as a foundation and use that as a springboard. So yeah, that's what I get up to. That's what things are looking like at the moment with everything with COVID and the lockdown. So yeah. That's what I get up to most of the time.
At your veterinary clinic, do you get to work with cute animals or is it mostly like farm animals, which are also still cute?
That is a good question. It's mostly the cute small ones. And it's usually the dogs, the cats, sometimes the odds and the wonderful. I actually got to see a lemur, a nice brown-tailed lemur, a couple of weeks ago, which is
that
really
is interesting.
Yeah, we get ducks. They're really cute as well. I really enjoy working with them and chickens. So it's quite a variety. But yeah,
we actually just took in a pet tortoise, so I know who to come to if I ever need help with my.
Oh man,
what kind of tortoise? Cute.
You know.
So, what have you been doing for the last few months at work, and has it had to change because of lockdown, because of COVID? How's it been for you?
So work has really changed. Our clinic pretty much shut down within a couple of days of the announcement of real, lockdown changes. We were doing telephone conversations or consults, and then only if it was urgent, life-threatening care that was needed that they could come to the clinic. And yeah, it's been very limited. Slowly over time, things have started to go back to kind of normal, but we're still, not have people in the building. I meet people in the car park and bring the pet inside and do the examination there and then go back out. So that, in the sense of the work environment, that's changed. I guess socially in work as well, things have changed. They're really not encouraging us to kind of stay in work if possible and kind of go back out and back home. So it's not totally relaxed still yet. But yeah, so they're the kind of things that have really changed. I remember once it was, people would be really concerned about their pet and something be brought in and the team was saying, I don't think that's an emergency, go back home. And there's this real conflict of, well, how far do we go with seeing things in the clinic, and how far do we go? And we don't want to risk anything that's unnecessary with safety between people, seeing them. So yeah, it's had its challenges, but it's been okay.
I imagine it's quite difficult to do like telephone conferences with pets, because it's hard enough trying to do like a doctor's appointment at the moment. At least I can tell the doctor what's wrong, whereas like a cat can't really like talk about where the pain is. Like that must be quite tricky.
That's exactly it. There's already one hurdle to overcome, and now we've got more of a hurdle where we can't see each other. We ask people to take photos and videos if they can send it to the clinic, but I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's bad enough they can't even say it's here. I mean, we have to try and figure that out, and just put pieces of the jigsaw together. But yeah, exactly. So we really would love to see all the animals back again at the clinic, but yeah, we're slowly getting there. But yeah, you're right. It's been challenging.
Yeah, you must have a lot of patience at the moment. So for the people watching this, Chris and I know each other from going to different like Catholic youth events, different retreats. I don't think we've been on pilgrimage together, but we've definitely been on a fair few retreats. Walsingham counts as a pilgrimage, doesn't it? It takes long enough to get there.
Yeah.
So how has your faith influenced your outlook on life, and particularly recently over the last few months?
That's a really good question. I guess it's transformed over the past few months, in the sense of having a lot of challenges and being really distant from the church physically. But I suppose my faith, I still feel I call upon for help when things get really tough. That is still a truth that lies. I suppose it's the intellectual truth as well. Asking God for patience with me when going through these tough times, and yeah, just crazy odd things have happened when I feel like a certain situation it can't get any better, and just saying, please, I just need this situation to go well, and just asking for help, even though things are quieter. I mean, the truth is that yes, things are quieter in the sense of the frequency of picking up the Bible and dedicating some time just to read scripture and pray and things like that. But when the going gets tough, there's still that little quiet voice that reminds me of certain truths about Christ, certain truths about God that you still cannot argue with. So yeah, those things are still deep within. But that only came those things. I guess it was nurtured prior to lockdowns, prior to that, and knowing that one day, yeah, we will encounter these really tough times, and it's the nitty gritty, ugly parts of life that when we encounter these difficult times, yeah, we don't always turn back to Christ, and you see how that gets revealed and whatnot. So it's yeah, it's again, I think it's been tough for everyone, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think even like we're still at home a lot, especially like working from home, or when we weren't working even, but like when your routine gets thrown out of the window, your whole life is just like up in the air. And like you say, even if we weren't always like picking up a Bible or having that same prayer routine, there's like deep down, that Jesus is still there, and he's always going to be there for you, and that doesn't change, and his love for us doesn't change as well. And that's just like something to cling on to when everything seems a bit crazy in the outside world. So speaking of Bibles and strength, what's a Bible verse that you rely on for hope and strength, or a passage or a story? What's something that you always come back to?
That's a really good question. I guess the one that always, I guess, stands out is Prodigal Son. I mean, it's such a classic for feeling like you haven't spoken to God for a while, or you find that other things are taking your mind away and distracting you from things you should be doing and things like that, and really go, for instance, like going out of your way for Christ, having patience with us. So I do find strength and encouragement remembering the fact of the prodigal son still coming back to the father, even though yes, he spent his money and went away from the father. The father still accepted him with arms, and it's with open arms. It's such a difficult concept sometimes for me to cling on to, think, well how keep going away, but just accepting it and just trusting it, and yeah, so I find a lot of strength in that, and it's the patience I think is the thing that I'm really clinging on to. I get a lot of strength from the Beatitudes as well, just for guidance, just for when I'm thinking life is crazy. I've got all these things that are distracting me. I found that my patience hasn't been so great over these past few months. That's something that's really been testing me, and it's been more revealed about myself. And just going back to the Beatitudes as a source of strength to for that encouragement to still live a particular way, in goodness, to bear good fruit. Yeah, they're things that still come back to me.
Yeah, they're two really great ones. I think my Bible has certain bookmarks that like I know I can just open and there's something there, rather than like spending ages deciding what I'm going to read today. There's like certain ones that I know I can go to for different things that I need. And so, you know, if people are watching, if you've got a Bible at home, find that passage that you can always turn to when you need a little bit of a push to get motivated again. That's something really great to do. Okay, Chris, my final question for you is kind of the theme of today's little show. I don't know what we're calling these. Is what's on your Catholic bucket list?
That's there. I like that question. There have been a few things that have gone through my brain over the past few, well, I'd say a couple of years actually. I really want to visit more of the places that Jesus visited, walked. I think a really powerful one would be Calvary. So, you know, where, or even something like the Garden of Gethsemane. So, you know, all these places in Jesus' final hours, what was it like? What it looked like? I've heard from different people certain things that they felt, or certain experiences that they had by visiting there. And it's not a case of FOMO. It's not fear of missing out, but it is a genuine feeling of translating something that's written into real life. We're on this planet. This person walked on this planet, and that's not just on historical documentation and things like that from eyewitnesses from other people. I mean, it would be nice to actually visit the Holy Land and actually try to see these places and be like, put the two together, put the two.
When you're reading the Bible, it's easy to forget that like the actual real places, like it's not just a story in a book, like the places actually exist and we can visit them when we're able to, and when we can go out again. Maybe that's something we should pray for, that we can all go to the Holy Land when it's safe to travel again. So I just want to say a massive thanks to Chris, because he was up very late last night looking after the animals and still got up this morning to chat to us. So I really appreciate it, Chris. And hopefully, you know, you'll have your animals back in the clinic very soon so you can take good care of them. But I really do appreciate you joining us this morning. And it's been great to chat to you and to hear all about what you've been up to. So thank you, Chris, and hopefully we'll speak to you soon.
That's very sweet of you, Sophie. Thank you very much.
I think it's incredible when listening to somebody like Chris, you realise that this pandemic's affected a lot more people than is just in our little world, isn't it? I mean, he's a vet and it's really affected the way he's working.
Yeah, honestly, before I chatted to Chris, I hadn't even thought about how it might have affected vets and some of the services that are essential but wouldn't come across in my daily life.
Yeah, it hadn't occurred to me as well that, like, I mean, we've seen it. We've got vets just near to us, and they line up outside now, and that Chris is actually going out in the car park and assessing these. But also, I think that the bit that struck me as well was when Chris said that that there was a choice almost as to whether you got your animal cared for or not. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, and I think what's nice to hear as well, we heard it with Bridget last week, is that you know, if you're a young person, a young adult living a life of faith, you don't just have to work for the church to live that out. That's one thing that stands out to me when talking to Chris is, you know, he's a young adult who's living out his faith, but is working very much in the world, you know, as a vet that you wouldn't necessarily think has a faith link, but because he's living his life as a witness, that's really cool.
And he's just a nice guy, really, isn't he?
Yeah, it's fun to talk to your friends as part of your work. So I thought we could talk a little bit now about joy and what's been bringing us joy recently. So there is a little video that I thought we'd start with because it's fun, and then we'll have a little bit of a chat.
Joy, I saw happiness, I saw people celebrating life.
It's just the type of energy that is transmitted between people. When someone else is like transmitting a lot of positive energy, it kind of lifts you up a little too.
It made me feel like I wanted to be on the wall. I wanted to be one of those faces. It made me feel joyful inside.
I think that joy and positive emotions and happiness, they keep us going from day to day.
It made me feel like this.
You have got to love a bit of Soul Pancake. If you haven't already done so, go and search for them. We'll stick a link below. Go and search for Soul Pancake. They're brilliant. We use them so much in ministry as well. And some of the little videos they're done so well. The quality of them, but also the content of them really does challenge you to think, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that video, it just makes me think about all the little things that are bringing me joy at the moment. You know, we don't really have anything big going on, but just like little things. Like on Saturday we drove to the seaside and had a walk along the beach in the sun, and sat down for 10 minutes, and that was really nice. And then we had a sandwich and a packet of crisps on the beach. And I think maybe this time last year I might think that was a bit like, oh, you know, just normal summer holidays, but this year, especially after the last few months, I'm like, oh my goodness, amazing. Just walk along the beach and a sandwich and a packet of crisps and a can of pop is... This probably making me sound old and lame, but the little things like that are just really, really joyful at the moment.
And it really does. I think the way we're currently living and the way everybody's living, it's you got to look for those little moments, haven't you?
Yeah, it was really nice, and there was lots of the beach. It was up in Northumberland, so the beaches never get very busy in Northumberland. They're like a bit of a secret spot up there, and the wide open spaces. A few families dotted around having a nice time, but we just had half a beach to ourselves just for a nice long walk.
And it's that little moments of joy that we really need to focus on, isn't it? I mean, for me, I've got some bigger, it's not quite the little ones. I'm going to show you a picture. She's going to kill me. But this is my niece and nephew. She's just gone to secondary school. In Scotland, they've gone back to school already. And she's just gone to secondary school. So really proud of her. Like, she was really small She's gone really small. She's grown up, and I don't know how she's got to being in first year at secondary school. And the little man beside us, her brother as well. But this is my niece and nephew. They are a real source of joy for me. However, I'm gonna share something as well. Baby clothes. Like, you gotta love baby clothes. Like, they bring so much joy. Yeah, we're expecting our first son, as you can tell from the colour. And I'm turning him into a little dinosaur because there's so many cute baby clothes out there that are just dinosaurs. They've got little things on them that stick out. It's just incredible. And we're expecting him in October, all being well. We don't want him too early either. The source of joy would be him being born on the 8th of October. And I think just being able to get out, I mean, obviously we've not been able to get out and do any shopping really. So we managed to escape lockdown on Saturday and get into a few different shops to have a look at clothes and that sort of thing. It's going to be an Amazon baby because there's very little that's come from outside of Amazon. Most things have been ordered through Amazon, and we know our delivery driver personally. But for us, that's a little source of joy, and especially for the pandemic, getting through the pandemic, there's been this source of joy there that's been growing slowly. And this little human being that we're bringing into the world, it's quite incredible. Ask me in the next 5 or 6 months whether it's a source of joy. I'm not sure that might be the thing. The lack of sleep might be an issue. But for now, going and buying baby clothes and little cute things like that is really quite cool.
Yeah, and I think whether your source of joy is something really small, like a sandwich on the beach, or something big like you're expecting a baby, it's really important to share those with other people, because I love hearing good news stories. I've spent more time than ever just like scrolling through social media, one, because there's not much else to do, but two, I love seeing what other people are doing and sharing their happy moments, and just seeing what good things are happening at the moment. It's really nice to be able to share those with everyone.
And I think it's also important to say that if you're watching this and you've got a source of joy, something that you'd really like to share with us, please do email us, drop us a message on Facebook, on Twitter or Instagram, and we'll get back to you, and maybe we could share your joy with the rest of the diocese as well.
Yeah, that'd be really great. And this is a really convenient segue. I didn't plan this, but it's worked perfectly because our gospel reading yesterday was somebody who her whole life was to share her joy with Jesus, with the whole world. And obviously that is Mary. Like we said, yesterday was the Feast of the Assumption, and Mary's whole life was to share her joy. So Sandy is just going to start reading some of the Bible passage now, and then I'm going to finish it. So we're just going to close our time together with some prayer.
At that time, Mary got ready and hurried to a town in the hill country of Judea, where she entered Zachariah's home and greeted Elizabeth. When Elizabeth heard Mary's greeting, the baby leapt in her womb, and Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Spirit. In a loud voice, she exclaimed, "Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the child you will bear. But why am I so favoured that the mother of my Lord should come to me? As soon as the sound of your greeting reached my ears, the baby in my womb leapt for joy. Blessed is she who has believed that the Lord would fulfill his promise to her."
And Mary said, "My soul glorifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God my Saviour, for he has been mindful of the humble state of his servant. From now on, all generations will call me blessed. For the Mighty One has done great things for me. Holy is his name. His mercy extends to those who fear him, from generation to generation. He has performed mighty deeds with his arm. He has scattered those who are proud in their inmost thoughts. He has brought down rulers from their thrones, but has lifted up the humble. He has filled the hungry with good things, but has sent the rich away empty. He has helped his servant Israel, remembering to be merciful. To Abraham and his descendants forever, just as he promised our ancestors. And Mary stayed with Elizabeth for about 3 months and then returned home. I think reading the Sunday Gospel is a really great way to set ourselves up for the week. So we heard that yesterday, and rereading it this morning is a really nice way to start our week, just by hearing what God has to say to us and what might inspire us by listening to that passage again. And like we've had for the last 2 weeks, we have a challenge for you based on today's gospel. So today's challenge is to learn more about Our Lady this week. So you could research her online, read some books, read the passages about Our Lady in the Bible, and look up some of the devotions to Our Lady. So you might have a favorite one already, like the Rosary, but there's some others out there as well, and to choose one way to ask her to help you to grow closer to Jesus. So if you manage to do that this week, please do let us know, and we'd love to hear what you've been up to.
And so that brings us to the end of our third Monday morning live. I think it's really important to say as well that I'm just here to flower pot. Sophie's actually the one that does the hard work on this one, so thank you, Sophie. Thank you for sharing some of your thoughts with us today, this morning. It's still early. It's hard to believe. But thank you for that today. And remember those challenges. Keep an eye on the social media platforms, because actually we're going to post some stuff as the days go on. Check out yesterday's ones if you're looking for a little bit more of that challenge as well. So please do follow us on any of the social media platforms that we're on. And join us next week. Do we know yet what's happening next week?
No.
No.
If you have any ideas, send them our way.
Yep. Any good news stories, send them in, and we will see you same time, same place. So on behalf of myself and on behalf of Sophie, thank you for joining us, and we shall see you next week.